Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Beekeeping for Newbies. Thank you so very much for taking the time to listen. I do appreciate you. As always, feel free to reach out, Jeff at beekeepingfornewbies.com. That's NEWBEES.com. All right, folks, today is going to be Bee Buzz episode 21. It's going to be a bit of an abbreviated episode. We don't have a whole lot of questions that have come in right now, but there are things that have kind of been sitting out there for a little while that I want to get knocked out. So we're going to just roll through them fairly quick. It's bumping up against 4th of July here, pushing up against. I think we're pushing up against 4th of July. Today's the 3rd. Tomorrow's the big 4th of July day. And I hope all of you have a great day. Spend some time with family, friends, and all that good stuff. But I'm going to jump in here. We'll knock out this Bee Buzz and then get ready to, take an early weekend and go hang out and do whatever it is you guys want to do. All right. So we're going to go to the first question here. I've got, have you ever used peppermint candy for SHB, small hive beetle? So I have not used it, and I've heard about it for a long time, but this was posted in the Discord room, and I think someone else had jumped in and said, yeah, I'm using it in my hives right now. They're taking regular pieces of candy, like regular peppermint candy, and they're putting that like in different parts of the hive. I think they're breaking it into smaller pieces and putting it in the hive, and they're saying they're having pretty good results with it. I haven't done it myself, but I've just bought some. It was, I think like 2 days ago, I bought some peppermint little candies. They're waiting for me. So I'm going to give it a shot. I'll let you know if it works. Also, somebody else had mentioned something about like a peppermint oil or like a liquid based peppermint that I think they dropped in a few places inside the hive. So that might be worth a shot as well. I'm still using the old fashioned beetle blasters. In fact, I've got an entire video put together for that. It's a short one. It's like 20 or 30 seconds, 40 seconds, something like that. But I've got to get that released. But it's just the beetle blaster. It's a small little thing about 6 or 8 inches long, and it sits inside the brood chamber, like on top of the frames. You fill it up with some vegetable oil or whatever cheap oil you have, cooking oil. And what happens is as the workers are chasing the hive beetles around, they try to go into dark corners and places where they can hide, and they'll go down into this little trap and they get into that oil and then they drown, and then that's that. So periodically you want to either just toss them, or if you have the disposable or the reusable ones, just go ahead and take them, clean them out and fill them back up and put them back in. I will typically put 2 of them per brood box. That's just my formula. I don't know what anybody's magical formula is for that. Another thing that I have been told is Swiffer pads. I've been told that Swiffer pads, because the legs of the hive beetle have little barbs on them, and apparently when they go across those Swiffer pads, they can get hooked on them, and that's a great way to try to catch them. So I have some Swiffer pads that actually just got here today as well. So I will try that one out sometime soon. I got to make a mental note, which is really a bad idea because I have no memory left. Okay, the next one on the list here, pros and cons of queen clipping. What is it? Because I guess somebody mention about queen clipping. So what is it and why do people do it? So clipping the queen is basically either removing one or both of her wings. There's a couple of methodologies or kind of ideas behind this. One of them is if she can't fly, she can't swarm. Okay, so yes and no. One thing you can run into with this is if you cut the wings off, it is possible that the colony may, for some reason, look at her and say, something's wrong with this queen. She's got no wings. And if she doesn't have wings, she can't fly. We need to make a new queen. Now, I haven't heard about this being a big issue, but it's definitely something that you want to be aware of and at least be thinking about. I myself do not clip my queens. I figure if I didn't do my job in preventing them from swarming, then that's on me. But that's just my way of being a little bit tougher on myself about it. But if you clip a wing, there will still be a wing left behind. So you're saying, well, Jeff, why would you clip one wing? I know like the University of Guelph up there in Ontario, Canada, I know that they have a system where they will clip, and I don't know exactly, but it's something like, odd years they will clip the left wing, even years they will clip the right wing. And so they can just tell by the marking and which wing is clipped. They can say, okay, this queen is a 2023 queen because, whatever the system they have. So that's one reason there. What can happen is if you clip a wing or two, the queen might still think everything's okay. And like she runs out the door with everybody as they're swarming. Then you have all these bees that are clustering wherever she can walk to or wherever she ends up. And then it's kind of a weird situation. I don't know. Like I said, I don't do it. I don't see much value to it, but that's what it is. Okay, I just did a little bit of editing here. I was mid-discussion on the queen clipping, and I heard a sound behind me, and I think I've got some neighbors they got some young boys, and they're playing soccer in the yard, and the ball always ends up over here in our yard. It just kind of surprised me a little bit when I heard a voice over my shoulder out in the yard. I was like, there shouldn't be anybody in the yard. So anyway, good people. Okay, so we're going to jump into the next subject here, and this is going to be, how do you euthanize a hive? You could do this. But for those of you who don't have access to a flamethrower, what I would recommend is one of a couple different things. Now, years ago, I had a foul brood issue, and what I did was I took the colony, the entire colony, inside the hive because the components had to be destroyed anyway. And I went ahead and I had a little bit of a bonfire going, and I put them up on forklifts. I just lifted the pallet up, drove it over, and just dropped them right into the fire. And that pretty much took care of it. I know that's not always practical for everybody, and that may not make sense for you given the various circumstances that might present themselves. So we have a couple other options. These aren't things that I've done, full disclosure, but I wanted to at least tell you about them to kind of give you some options. So one of them is gas or diesel. You can take about a cup, like about one measuring cup, and what you'll do is you can open up the hive. So what I recommend is, let's say as an example, and again, it's going to be different based on your setup, but let's say you have outer cover, inner cover, and 2 deeps, and then you got your standard bottom board and your stand. Now, remember that if you're using gas or diesel, it's pretty much going to destroy everything. The only thing you're going to be able to really reuse again probably would be, maybe the stand. Well, I mean, the stand would probably be okay, but anything that has contact with the inside of the hive, those residual fumes could be on there, and it could be pretty disruptive for the bees. So you're going to lose the hardware if you go this route. But it's not the liquid, like the gasoline or the diesel itself. It's not the liquid that kills them. It's not fire. You're not using this as an accelerant, just to make sure we're clear. You're not going to burn them, but it's the fumes that come off of it that's going to kill them. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and wait until it's dark. It can be early in the morning. It can be late at night, but wait till it's dark. Close the hive up just like you were going to move them. And then when you're ready, open up, take your outer cover off, take your inner cover off, and take about 1 measuring cup. And you can just pour it down. Let's just say, for example, like we always talk about with the frames, being frames 1 through 10, left to right. You basically right around probably like frame 3, you'll pour about half of it in between the frames. You go over to around frame, 5 or 6, 7, somewhere in that area, and pour the other half in there. And like I said, about 1 measuring cup provides enough fumes to kill them. Pour that in there, close everything up, and leave it. Now, the bigger or taller the hive, you may need to use a little bit more. If it was, 3 or 4 deeps high, you may need to use a little bit more. If it's just a single deep, you can probably use a little bit less. But close everything up. You'll hear kind of a rumble and a roar as they kind of realize that something bad is going on, and they quiet down pretty quickly, and those fumes are going to take them out of the game pretty fast. Another option you have is sulfur dioxide. And you used to be able to, in different places, it's regulated differently in different places, but they have these tablets, and you could put a tablet in like in the corner of the hive, light it, and the fumes, the vapor that came off, I guess the sulfur, that sulfur would kill the bees. I've never used them, and I don't know how accessible that they are, but it's the same thing with isopropyl alcohol. You can use that as well. And another option that some people have discussed is dry ice. So you could take a block, and I think the recommendation was like a 2-pound block, but you take a block of dry ice, put that into the hive, close everything up. And as time goes by, the ice, as it's melting, it will off-gas CO2, and that CO2 will kill the bees. The other method, though, the one that I think is probably the cleanest, most practical, the one that really makes sure that you can still continue using your hardware once you're done with everything, is soapy water. And the way that I've seen this done is people taking about, like a cup per gallon. I think they would, cup and a half per gallon. So you can take like a 5-gallon jug, or, if you can only do a 1-gallon bucket, then just do multiple, have 2 or 3 buckets on hand. But you'll fill these up, mix everything up, and mix it up and then fill it up. And then you're going to just pour this over the entire colony from top down. Same procedure as I mentioned before, right? You wait till nighttime, close everything up. But yeah, pour the soapy water in, completely cover it, close it back up, and let it do its thing. One extra tip for that is if you're doing kind of the pour method, you can put a screen up top. So think about like a outer cover, inner cover, and then you would have direct access to the frames. If you have a spare piece of frame or even a hive body that is framed, you can put that at the very top so that when you do open everything up and you start pouring the solution in, whatever solution you decide to go with, it'll pour right through the screen and take them out. You don't have to worry about them flying up at you while you're trying to do this. Again, there's going to be a few of them that'll probably get out, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. Okay, the next question that I had was, can we talk about some available apps like bee maintenance and inspection tracking apps? I was using one years ago. I think it was HiveTrax. I'm not even positive. I think it was HiveTrax. And that was, of course, after years of going by paper. And then I stopped using them and kind of went back to paper because the licensing, I just didn't want to pay for the licenses. And I just went back to paper. I went to notes. Some of the notes were actually on the Hive itself. It wasn't exactly the best method. So I'm not actively using anything today. I don't really have a great recommendation, but I did go out and look up a few of them. So you have HiveTrax, Bee Plus, Apiary Book, Hive Tool Mobile, Bee Scanning, Beekeeper's Companion, Bee Check, Honeybee Base, Bee Tracka, Trakka, Honeybee Time, and MyHive. So I think that if I were looking to get one today, what I'm thinking about that's really, really important to me, regardless of who you decide to go with, I want something that if you can do pictures, it's a nice little bonus. So you go up Hive number 121 and you have a picture of Hive 121, and you have that saved with all the data. That way, if you're scrolling through something, you can look and say, which one was it that had that problem? It's not just a number. You can actually identify it by appearance as well. I think that's kind of a cool feature. More importantly, though, I want some kind of a backup. If I have to have the data on my phone and it's part of my iCloud subscription, I can just back it up through that. Okay, cool. But if it's native to the app, I would prefer that a little bit better. So it's kind of separated from my iCloud. So if I ever have an issue with Apple and I decide to stop doing business with them, I don't really want to have my data get stuck in their cloud to be, whatever happens with it up there. So you want to make sure you have a backup. You want to make sure you have some way to keep track of things, but you're also looking at any other integration points it might have. So does it get weather data? If you can pull weather data, so let's say, for example, I did an inspection on July 1st. If it can automatically say, based on my zip code, okay, well, the weather on this day, and you did an inspection at 11 a.m. Well, at 11 a.m., the temperature was 86 degrees. So you don't have to try to keep track of everything. You can just say, I did an inspection at this time. And if it has that kind of integration, I think that that's really cool. Reminders. So maybe you go in and you say, oh, okay, I see a queen cell forming here. There's a young larva in there and it's a certain date. You can set a reminder that says, hey, come back and check on this in a week and see if that has become a queen cell. Being able to have reminders pop up so that like you might be hanging out one Saturday and be like, yeah, I'm going to blow off my inspections today. And then this reminder pops up and it's like, inspect queen cell on Hive number 15. And you're like, oh crap, you don't want to miss out on that. So I think that might be a good feature with the reminders and integration and stuff like that. One thing I will recommend, there is a website. It's Blythewood Bee Company. So it's BLYTHE Wood, WOOD, BEE Company, COMPANY.com. They have a link on their site where it talks about a bunch of different apps and different features and things. And that's actually where I pulled a lot of this information from. So I definitely recommend reaching out to them and seeing what they have. So I definitely recommend checking out their site, and you can get some more details on a lot of the things that I just went over. So I'm actually looking right now inside the Bee Buzz section of our Discord room. There was a little bit of discussion around grafting. I know we've talked about grafting before, but just a couple quick things. There are a couple of different options as far as grafting tools go. There's the Chinese grafting tool that has the small little kind of bamboo shoot that comes out, and you can kind of scoop the larva out with that. That's what I like to use. The recommendation I actually made in here is if you're going to buy those, don't buy one or two. Get like a 10 pack of them. One, it's going to be cheaper, and two, they're kind of cheap anyway. I think if I get a 10 pack, probably 2 or 3 of them aren't going to work, or they break really easily. So go ahead and get a 10 pack of those. The other type, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's basically just kind of like an angled hook, and you have to hook it, and it doesn't have any flexibility to it like the bamboo can kind of like slide up underneath of the cell and really get underneath that larva. And it's important that when you take the larva out, that you set it back down in that same orientation. I don't really understand how this works. I would love to talk to a scientist. In fact, this would be a good question when we have Randy Oliver on, or we have another gentleman who we're going to be talking to who is, I'm not going to give it away yet, just in case it doesn't happen. But we have another person teed up who is pretty well versed in this space. I want to ask them about this, because if you go under that larva and you pick the larva up and you're grafting it and you set it back down into the cell, not in the same orientation, right? So if you set it down one way and you drop it in the other, apparently what happens is it drowns on the royal jelly. It's like the larva goes from egg to larva, and then the bees give it the royal jelly, and then it's basically like somehow it's in a face up position, and then you flip it over when you graft. If it's in the face down position, it drowns and dies. So we have one of our members who was doing some grafting the other day. I think that they did about 9 or 10. They've got 3 successful. To me, first timer, if you get 1 successful, that's a win. But that's part of where we had that discussion the other day. I'm just trying to take a quick peek right now to see if I see anything else. During the grafting discussion, there are some glasses that I recommend, and I put a link to them inside of the Discord room. But if somebody wants, you can email me or whatever. I'll send you a link. But I wear these glasses that they look like, regular glasses to put them on, but they have a changeable lens, and you can do, 1.5, 2.5. I think it goes all the way up to 3 or 3.5 times magnification. When you're young and you're like in your teens and 20s or whatever, you can probably look in the cell with the grafting tool and just graft them right out. No problem. As you get older and your eyes start doing the crap to them that mine and everybody else is over probably the age of 40 are doing, you got to have some kind of magnification. Regular reading glasses might do it, but I really love those with that 3 times magnification, because it really zooms you in on the cell. But whatever you got to do, just, find something that works for you. All right, folks, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I actually have some time. I could go a little bit longer, but, I just start rambling. Next thing you know, I'm wasting your time. So that's all I've got. Have a great 4th of July. Have fun. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to one another. And remember, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Talk to you soon.